I I have heard a number of stories told by and about people who have died clinically and then been brought back to life, who in that time between their clinical death and their restoration, they had some incredible experiences. When I died uh, during my heart attack thing, I have no memory. I just remember laying my head back, closing my eyes, and then the screen went black, and waking up. But what my first memory is being rolled out on a gurney out of the ER, headed for the cath lab. I am told that I was awake and talking while in the ER, and I'm sure that's, I know that's true. I don't have a big memory of it. Uh, what happens after you die is an intriguing mystery for most people. Now, there are some people who they don't really care. They don't want to think about that. Don't talk to me about death. Don't talk to me about that. I don't want to know. I don't want to. Let's not go there. I don't blame you. It can be a pretty frightening thing. We don't have a real clear picture of what is going to happen once we die. Peter talks about what part of what is going to happen. In verse 5, this is First Peter chapter 4. We're picking it back up. We've been talking about verse 5, but they will have to give account to him who is ready to judge the living and the dead. Apparently, there is a judgment. For this reason, the gospel was preached even to those who are now dead, so that they might be judged according to human standards in regard to the body, but live according to God in regard to the spirit. Now, you've got to reflect back to the fact that in chapter 3, when Peter wrote about the significance of baptism and how the waters of baptism were a symbol of, or a reflection back to, when Noah and his family were saved in the ark by water, that Jesus, during the time, we assume during the time of his entombment, went and preached to those from Noah's day. And the only thing you can gather from that, or one of the big things you can gather from that, is that Jesus broke out of the boundaries of time and space, I suppose, and somehow was able to dialogue and at least talk to men and women who died during the flood. And here, that Peter gives us a reason that was preached even to those who are now dead, so that they might be judged. God's standard of judgment, I'm drawing conclusions here. There's nothing literally stated, but one of my conclusions that I'm going to draw from this is that God's standard for judgment has everything to do with our response to his commands, desires, design. When you reject it, you put yourself in a position where you will be judged. Those who reject Jesus will be judged for their rejection. Now, I know there are people in the world who believe that everybody's going to get saved. A good God couldn't send anybody to hell. I almost believe that. Here's what I believe. I don't believe God sends anybody to hell. I believe people go to hell because they chose to go there. I love what C.S. Lewis said. He said there are two kinds of people in the world. People who say to God, "Your will be done." and people to whom God says, your will be done. The people who say, I want what I want, and what you want is what you lost, I won. Okay, God permits that. But when you don't say yes to Jesus on his terms, the judgment will come down not in your favor. I think that the Bible is clear here. And if you take it at its face value as a whole, the Bible doesn't stutter. It doesn't leave you uninformed about what God's design is and how that is going to come about. It isn't that, God will take into account that you've been a pretty nice guy or you've been a pretty nice person, and so, your good really is good enough. No. If my good was good enough, it would have been a travesty that Jesus should have had to die to satisfy justice. Well, there will be a judgment. They will be judged according to human standards in regard to the body. Well, hey, that has to do, in my opinion, what he's saying here is there is a standard. And when you are alive in the body, the standard has to do with what you did, said, thought, your motives, and your actions while you are in the flesh. But live according to God in regard to the Spirit. I suppose there is a chance that some of those who were preached to, who heard the gospel, may have said, that's what I've been looking for all my life. In that case, they live according to God in regard to the Spirit. I do know this, that when I die, my hereafter, whatever it's going to look like, my hereafter will be because God has caused me to live according to the Spirit. That's a pretty inadequate exposition of a pretty complex concept from Scripture. Let's move on to verse 7, because the more I talk, the deeper I'm going to dig. The end of all things is near. Whoa, whoa, whoa. In 60 A.D., Peter believed the end is near. I hear all kinds, and I see it on social media. I bet there have been 1,000 sermons, more than 1,000 sermons preached about how this pandemic and how the world is moving and what is happening is evidence that we are in the last days. This is the final act. The curtain is ready to be dropped. And it very well could be. Peter thought his day was the beginning of the end. I don't know when the end is going to come. Jesus said, I don't know. The angels don't know. The only one who knows is my Father. And I think what he was saying, one of his messages in that was, don't bother yourself about when it's all going to happen. It could happen right in the next moment, or it could be long after your death. When it happens, that's not the point. The point is, am I stewarding my life so that when I die, when time ends for me, I will have said yes to Christ and lived within his design. The end is near. The end of all things is near. You can't live oblivious to that fact. When I got out of bed on January 10th, 2011, looking forward to golf with my best friend in a place I loved, I had no concept. It didn't even enter my imagination that, well, this is going to be the last day for me. I'm going to die. I had no idea. I'm so grateful that God revived me and gave me life again, but I didn't know that. But the end of all things is near for everybody. None of us can say, oh, I'm not going to die today. I mean, you say that. You don't know. The end of all things is near. Therefore, here's the thing. Because we need to live with the awareness that the end is always near. It will never not be near. Therefore, remember, stop and look and see what it's there for. Be alert and of sober mind so that you may pray. Not so that you can get all the things you would like to do and make the most of every good thing and on and on and on. It's so that you can pray. Be alert and of sober mind. There's a lot to that, and I don't have enough time left in my allotted time to go deeply into it. So what I'm going to do is press the pause button right now and sign off a couple of minutes early so that I can come back next time and flush out this being alert and sober-minded. I hope that we get to connect this way then, and I look forward to connecting with you on Soul Care with Stevie Boy.